Slightly.
You're not a tramp, not a tramp. We're live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Family Law Assistants. I'm Kyla Wade, the co-founder of Family Law Assistants, and today we are joined by the beautiful, the amazing Kim Antrobus. Kim,
The very flustered Kim Antrobus. Getting a message at 1 minute to 1 minute and we're on, Kim. Where are you?
I definitely wasn't sat here wrapping my nails. Got new nails. I don't know if you noticed. I got new nails, and
Very nice.
I love that wrapping. You know, that sort of wrapping. I love that sound. Anyway, and today we are just chilling and just having a natter about all things family law, but in particular, we're going to be talking about the cost, and I say that in the round, the cost of your family law case on you. Emotional, whether you're using a solicitor, have they poured petrol on the fire? Have you spent a shit ton of money and felt like you're not getting anywhere? I mean, me and Kim have seen all sorts of bizarre and weird tricks lately, haven't we, from all kinds of legal professionals in the courts at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the worst thing for me, I certainly feel like our role in family law, if you're representing someone or helping someone to represent themselves, should be to minimize the emotional distress in the case and kind of minimize the stress generally of a case. You know, try and reduce the antagonism, reduce the animosity between the parties. But I feel like there's so many people out there that are representing their clients, but they're doing it in the kind of way that you'd expect a mum to represent their kid at school if it was getting bullied.
I love that analogy.
You know what I mean? Like they're going in like all ferocious and attacking. And I just think, especially where there's kids involved, this is just not the approach. I just don't think it's the right approach. I mean, I do obviously have a caveat here because I'm not talking about cases where there's been domestic abuse. I think in those sort of cases, there probably is a bit more need to be a bit feisty. If you're representing someone who's been abused, I think that's a bit of a different matter. But I'm talking about the general run-of-the-mill cases where people have just fallen out of love, and eventually it's gone a bit toxic and they've split up. Yeah. I just think there's a lot of inflammatory representation going on, and I think it's really unnecessary and it's really unhelpful. And I don't think long-term it sets the parties in the right position for continuing any kind of mode of communications or any kind of relationship in terms of parenting the children. I mean, that's a big thing, isn't it? That you're stuck with them until the kid's at least 18. So you want to be at least civil with them.
Right. And I often feel like, you know, especially when people are in court, and as much as we say, you know, conciliation, things work better with agreement. And we're the last people to pour petrol on the fire. But even in that scenario, even with us going, you know, putting the arms around everyone, going, look, it's fine, let's calm things down. Even in that scenario, listen, people are in court, they're in their bunkers, respective bunkers. Mum is in bunker A, dad is in bunker B, and there's a whole bunch of no man's land that kind of me and you have to navigate through. And I often feel if you're that person, feisty person, ferocious person, how the heck are you going to get agreement? Because I don't know about you, Kim, but if I try and go and help and speak to the other side, doesn't matter who I am, doesn't matter how nice I am, I'm still for the other side. Imagine if that I was aggressive and ferocious. That I just don't know how that would work. It doesn't.
I don't understand how it works. I can't say because I am not that type of person. I don't go in like that. I kind of want to set the tone from the off as being open to trying to reach a compromise, because I think that's what it's all about, reaching compromise. You're always going to get one person who thinks they're completely right and then the other person thinks they're completely right, and you're never going to get an agreement if those two parties can't find some sort of common ground that they can agree on. You're never going to get an agreement. They're going to become completely entrenched. And I think the job as representation, whether it's ourselves or a solicitor that's actually physically representing them in every sentence, isn't to jump in the trench with them and start shooting over the parapet. I think our job is to try and bring them a bit closer together so that they can maybe start seeing all the different areas and seeing things from different perspectives.
I think that's so important, Kim, because I think when people are in their respective bunkers, whether they're in court, just about to go into court, just split up, they automatically take that, understandably, that defensive point of view, and they are not seeing anything from the other side's point of view. And then, you know, what often gets missed is we're in court arguing, usually, if we're in child matters, for the best interest of the children. And both parents think that they're doing this for the best interest of the children. And often what I find is that that's probably the last person they're thinking about. They're not ever seeing things from the children's point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I think best interests of me is what most people go in with. What's in my best interest? I mean, they're trying to like fit child arrangements around their lifestyle and their working hours, and they're, you know, and they're not really thinking, well, actually, is this right for the child? And I think somebody came to me the other day, and the plan that they had was very, for arrangements, was very split. Like, this day the child come to me, then they go home, then they come back to me, then they go home. And I was like, that's not stable. That's very choppy. Can we have a look at maybe putting 2 days together rather than drop them in, pick them up, drop them in? You know, I just think people don't always think, they don't remain child focused. They're very much consumed with their own emotions and their own wants and needs. And even though they think they're doing things for the child, they're not viewing things from child's perspective. And I know, like, I always say this when people ask me why I got into it. And one of the reasons I loved family law and became like quite passionate about it when I was studying it was because I was learning that children have voices, that children, even small children, have voices. And I was 15 when my mum and dad split up, and not one person asked me what I wanted. Not one person. So that kind of resonates with me, because I know that a lot of people don't ask the child. There's a big presumption child should go with mum a lot of the time. It's not always the best thing, and it isn't always what the child wants. Do you know what I mean? It's things like that. I think there needs to be a lot more, people need to think more from the child's perspective. And obviously you don't want to be talking to the child about adult matters and adult concerns, but there's ways and means of asking a child what they actually want and finding out what their position is. If a child's wanting to spend more time with the dad, why are you blocking that? That's a classic example, isn't it? Children often do want to spend more time with their dad. And I think people need to think about the reasons for it, the reasons for blocking it. If they're justified safeguarding reasons, that's completely different, isn't it? But
it's funny because I think that I often say this, and I think social media, and in particular Hollywood, has quite a lot to answer for. Bizarrely, I've just started playing with TikTok, yay me, getting into the 21st century. But the one video, Kim, I wasn't even wearing any makeup. Like, what?
I thought you were going to say underwear then. I was like,
oh my God, how is that your go-to?
Channel is this?
What makes me laugh is that's your go-to. But the one video that sort of went viral was the question, very provocatively, I asked was, what rights do I have to see my own children? Now, of course, it's a rhetorical question, because parents don't have rights per se. You don't get the Fathers Act 90, whatever. You don't get the Mothers Act 90, whatever. You do get the Children's Act. But there are so many Facebook groups out there, so many activists out there fighting for parents' rights.
Riling these parents up. That's, you know, I've seen with clients as well, where they've been completely... I don't know if they've been misguided or they've been handheld along this route that is just poisonous to their case. And I just don't understand, other than there being some sort of monetary aspect, or the client is adamant that that's what they want and won't actually listen to advice. I mean, I personally can't do that. If someone comes to me and tells me that they want something that I think is just completely ill at ease with my own values and what I perceive the court would view as reasonable, I don't want to be a part of that. I know it sounds awful, but I'm not saying people should come to me and be aligned with my thinking, but I think they should be open to hearing my perspective on what I think the courts are looking to see, because otherwise I don't think I'd gel with working with people like that.
Yeah, precisely. And whilst we're talking about sort of getting riled up and cost, people are spending A lot.
Thousands.
A lot.
Yeah.
The conversation, if you could see sort of like a behind the scenes, like almost like a candid camera version of what we talk about in our team meetings, some of what we're talking about is, I've had so and so come to me and they've already spent like a shit ton of money and they're not even in court. And you're thinking, what have you spent that money on? Right, Kim?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had someone come to me for a consent order. This is going to be my next blog, by the way, everyone. The importance of getting your financial order when you get divorced. Somebody came to me to ask me about their divorce generally, and obviously I listened to the person's situation, what they wanted to get, and what they were looking for as an end result. And we came to the conclusion that really they just wanted a clean break. They just wanted to say, this is yours, this is mine, that's that. I spoke with her in an initial consultation. That cost her 50 quid. We had another meeting shortly after that, which was £95, which was just to get everything down that she wanted. And then we drafted the consent order. Bish, bash, bosh, everything done. She's done her own divorce. She was charged before she came to me £1,000. And that consisted of she said they hadn't even taken instructions properly, but they had set up the file.
Yeah,
spent £1,000 and they've done nothing. And I was like, well, you're a competent, capable person. Take it into your own hands, do it yourself. Come to us for the finer legal refinements, the advice or the drafting. Come to us and we'll help you with that. Do as much as you can yourself, save yourself some money. And so far, she's really pleased with that. She's just waiting for the absolute, I think, to come through now. So really quick and easy process if you can do it by agreement. And that was another thing as well. We just discussed that. The pros and cons of this was pre 6th of April. So, you could go in with unreasonable behavior, and we discussed all the pros and cons. And, sometimes people make a decision that and this is what I found, they were going to wait because they didn't want to go down what was the quickest route, which was unreasonable behavior. By all means, the quickest route, but not very savoury sometimes. So, it was just a bit of a decision to avoid that animosity. Again, keep the person on side. You're more likely to get what you want or something closer to what you want if you aren't pissing people off. Let's put it bluntly. Stop fucking getting everyone's backs up because you are triggered or you are upset by something. Did you see me meme yesterday that I shared?
I saw that.
Really a meme. It was a clip of someone's thing, but to me it did resonate with me because I know I've got clients who are a bit like that they think that everything they're complaining about everything or they're upset about everything. And I think sometimes you've got to take a step back and think about why am I getting so upset about these things? Is it actually a problem? Right. Or is it just a minor blip in the road? Do you know what I mean? I know that I do that as well sometimes. Personally, not in my job. I'm all right in my job, but personally, I just go.
I think that's a really interesting point because when we're talking about the cost emotionally and financially, let's be real, okay? Most people are intelligent enough. Most people know who, what, why, where, when, and how straight away without having to ask anybody else. And most people, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Most of this stuff nowadays can be done online. A lot of this stuff, it's not rocket science, is it? I know the gravitas of the legal profession sort of make things out to be a lot more than they are. But me and you have been on Law Society seminars. I mean, like, me and you are like, this is not rocket science here, is it?
No. I mean, certainly with the divorce process now, the actual submission, the application is easy. It's not complicated. You just need to have your facts to hand and them. It's going to cost you to pay, you're going to have to pay someone else to tell them your facts so that they can then input it. It just seems a bit, I personally try and, I know it's not in my business interest, but I just tell people to do it themselves on the application front now. It's just absolutely pointless trying to get somebody else to draft it for you. But I think that's the point, isn't it? Identifying where people can save their money, where they can represent themselves. If people need that extra help, that's a bit different. But to me, I just think people aren't aware of the service that we provide. And I have spoken with a lot of solicitors recently because I've got a lot of solicitor friends, and they're really pro what we're doing, because they see that there's this gap in the access to justice, because you've got people who can either really not afford anything and really need the help that legal aid provides, which is unfortunate but fantastic at the same time. I mean, it's unfortunate if you ever have the need for legal aid, as you know, the eligibility criteria being domestic abuse. But then you've got, on the other side of the scale, people who can afford solicitors and the best barristers and QCs and all the rest. Yay for them. But what about everyone in the middle ground?
Right.
The people in the middle ground are missing out at the minute, and they don't know. I know that I've got one of my cases that I'm helping a client with. On the other side, that person doesn't have any representation. And my word, I think the whole thing would be better if they did. Somebody to guide them on what the actual legal position is.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's very want for this lack of actual understanding of what the actual legal position is sometimes makes the process really drawn out, more complicated. And I know that as I worked at solicitors' firms, when I heard there was a litigant in person on the other side, rarely did they have anyone helping them. And you'd hear there was a litigant in person and you just like collective sigh.
Yeah.
Because you know that it's going to be protracted. I say no because the vast majority of the time protracted. They don't know what they're doing. They're sending emails that are very emotional to the solicitors, having rants and putting in statements that you just think, whoa, why on earth have you put that in this statement? You know, and I think that that's very telling when there's nobody in. And people need to know that we exist so that they can lean in if they need to. Oh, I've got to do a statement. I don't even know where to start. Come to people who actually are professional at that sort of thing. We are professional in terms of drafting statements and we know the law. So, I think...
I couldn't agree with you more. You know, I think part of what we do, well, you know, it's starting to happen, you know. I mean, family law assistants, I mean, when people look at stuff on the internet, well, half the bloody stuff is on the internet is because we've put it there. When we talk about blogs, in fact, there's over like 160 blogs on the website now.
Is there?
Again, yeah, I know, man, isn't it?
That's brilliant, isn't it?
I know. So shameless plug for Kim.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But talking about like emotional cost, people who have spent that, because there are, you know, because people still think to a greater or lesser degree, you're either rocking up to court on your own or you're paying a shit ton of money for barristers and solicitors. You know, a bit like in the old days when people used to get married. People thought they could only get married in a registry office or a church, you know, and not realize the option that there are these days. But what are the emotional costs and financial costs for having, because, you know, you need some money, even if it's to pay the court application. If you're adding,
people feel like they're getting stuck. They feel stuck. I know I did. I felt stuck when I went to get divorced. I thought, I can't afford this. I can't afford it. I couldn't afford. I was a single mum at the time. I think I'd left my husband about a year previous, and I thought I can't really afford this at all. But I found the money in the end, because I think you do find the money if you really need it. You either find it or you can get it from somewhere. That was just me talking from a working person's perspective, not from some. I know I've got some people who've approached me recently, and they're in absolute dire straits. They've left because of abuse. They can't get legal aid yet because they've not got the benefits in place. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible situation for people in those circumstances.
It is. And legal aid, like most things, sadly, that is government run, it tends to be slow and clunky. I mean, if people are going through domestic abuse and they need a non-molestation, well, they don't need it in 8 bloody weeks' time, which is the average for legal aid to come through. They need it like yesterday, usually on an emergency basis. And legal aid doesn't tend to bridge that gap. It's just not there.
There needs to be more charities that can help with this initial phase, I think, you know, of people making that escape, because we're there and we can help, but there's only so much we can do because we're a paid profession too. But I think we're obviously more cost effective for people. But I really feel for people in those circumstances, because there's nothing. They can't get anything. And I think that sometimes, even in a less dramatic sense, people stuck in loveless marriages and they can't afford to move. They can't afford to leave the house because the money's stuck in the house.
Yeah. And from a personal point of view, I remember when I got divorced, that was precisely the position that I was in. That whole feeling stuck, can't afford to move out, can't, where do I go? So you're stuck there. And sometimes in a less than helpful scenario. For me, I remember being stuck. It was nearly
a very unhealthy situation, can't it, to be stuck in? Especially when, like, parents, for example, are separated and living in the same house. That when you've got kids there, that it's not always healthy. I mean, I'm sure there's some situations where the parents still get on and are reasonable, but I would imagine they're few and far between. And that atmosphere is absorbed by the kids. I think people think, oh, they don't see it, they don't hear it, it's fine.
They do, and
even they're still impacted.
Completely. I've seen scenarios where the parents have divvied up the house, where they've got cameras on people. It's just, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. And I get sometimes that from a financial point of view, you're stuck, you can't move, and you've got to make a best of a bad situation. But yeah, it's not healthy long term.
I think having lesser expensive legal fees, though, gives people an option to try and make the move a bit sooner. And that fear of having to put forward $5,000 at the beginning just to get things moving can be a lot for people. I mean, I think it's easier if you obviously we don't do payment plans or anything like that, but because we're pay as you go, it's almost the same thing. You just pay for what you need as you're going along, rather than upfront payment on accounts and things like that, which can be quite inhibitive to some people.
And I think overwhelming as well. If people know that there's a pay-as-you-go service that's half the cost of a solicitor, and that we can do as much or as little as they need to, I think mentally, for anybody going through that difficult time in their lives, it's potentially the most difficult time in their lives, I think it's less overwhelming than, not only have you got to deal with this situation, but you've been quoted 10K from a solicitor to do just to get things moving.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be people that are better suited to working with solicitors if they've got the money and they really cannot do the representation themselves, or some people it's just not suitable for. I've had people come to me and I've wanted to help them, I've tried to help them, but it just becomes really apparent that they are just not able to represent themselves. Usually it's people who have been in abusive situations, but sometimes those people do have the means to get themselves some representation, or they have friends or family that are willing to help them, and that's great. In those situations, I would absolutely say I won't try and convince people to stay with us, because I think we are suitable to a particular clientele. You'd agree, wouldn't you? There's a lot of people that can represent themselves. I was certainly someone that could represent myself, even despite what I'd been through. And I know I've got a lot of clients who are absolutely perfect candidates for what we do. And then there's people who obviously just cannot afford anything, and that's where legal aid comes in. So
exactly. Okay, guys, I hope you found that really useful. I want to know from you, are you kind of going through family law at the moment? Have you spent loads already? What's been the emotional cost for you? What's been the financial cost for you? Are you able to sort of say, because one of the things that we discussed amongst ourselves is we have clients come to us who have spent a ridiculous amount of money, and we sort of look at it and go, well, I'm not so sure you're any further forward,
I mean, I don't know Michaela, but I think our service is a little bit different as well, because we do offer that emotional support and the guidance, and we aren't charging for every single second of our time. Law firms, it's 6 minutes per unit that they charge for, and that's then £18 upwards per unit of time that you spend with them. So if you're on a 10-minute phone call, 36 quid upwards straight away. But we're not like that, are we? So we charge in blocks for what we do, and we're very upfront about our costs, and I think that's very attractive to a lot of people as well.
It is, and like I keep saying, it's the emotion. People need some, especially now, they
guidance,
need that
and calming down. Sometimes you just got to calm people down. Look, you're not seeing this for what it is because you're emotional about it. Emotional ears hear things differently, don't they?
That's very true. And I think now more than ever, especially in our lives, with cost of living going up, war on Ukraine, yada, 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 World War III, people want reassurance. If people can have that reassurance that, look, that we got you. We got you with the arm around the shoulder. We've got you in. It's not going to cost you. You're not going to have to plan that second bank heist. That
Bank heist. We're all our clients bank robbers now, Michaela.
You know when you've seen too much, like you've worked too hard.
You've been watching too much Netflix, is what you've been doing.
I've started watching Lincoln Lawyer, and I know it's overly American, and like I often think, imagine if there was a British version of that, it'd be so more boring. But I don't know if you've seen that. It's pretty good.
I started watching it and fell asleep. I'm not gonna lie. I did the same with The Split. I found The Split. Someone recommended it to me, but I watched one episode and I was a bit like, this is so far-fetched and not very realistic.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it. Because like,
have you seen The Split?
No, I haven't. But one of
the episodes, the lawyers actually have the kid that the dad's not allowed to spend time with in the office, like as if. Mum couldn't get childcare, so they brought the kid into the office and sat it there while dad's there for negotiations. Just not.
I've got a blog app. I'm gonna have to watch that now. I'm gonna have to make that.
Yeah, I've got to do my Encanto blog.
Yeah.
Dysfunctional families.
Yeah. Guys, so anyway, that's your lot. I hope you found this really interesting. Check out Kim's blog that's upcoming. She's going, yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah, there's any lawyer ones on there. It's the other one. Yeah. I'm gonna get it done this week though, because it's half term next week.
Yes, it is. Exactly. All right, guys, have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll check you later.
See you later. Bye-bye. I've just missed my call from my doctor.
Fuck's sake.